There comes a moment in every soul's journey when everything feels like it's falling apart. You question your strength. You doubt your purpose. You wonder if the pain will ever end. But here's the truth. Pain isn't here to destroy you. It's here to reshape you. Every challenge is a sculptor's chisel, carving away what no longer belongs to the masterpiece you are becoming. We've been taught that holding on makes us strong, but sometimes letting go is the bravest thing you can do. Let go of the person who doesn't see your worth. Let go of the version of yourself that survived, so the version that thrives can rise. Your value isn't determined by how others see you. You are not the reflection of their opinion. You are the reflection of your resilience. You are not defined by rejection. You are refined by it. When life becomes too loud, remember stillness is power. In a world that glorifies noise, silence becomes your strength. Breathe. Listen. You'll hear the whispers of wisdom only found in quiet hearts. And when uncertainty floods your days, hold on to faith. Because faith isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing trust despite fear. It's believing there's light, even when your eyes only see shadows. Transformation doesn't come through control. It comes through surrender. Stop trying to force what's not meant for you. Stop chasing what was only meant to teach you. Instead, open your hands, release, and rise. Because sometimes, the moment you stop fighting life, life starts fighting for you. Pain is not your enemy. It's the silent force that pushes you toward growth, the invisible hand shaping your strength when everything else seems to fall apart. In the darkest hours, when the weight of life feels unbearable, pain becomes the language through which life speaks the loudest. It whispers lessons you can't learn in comfort. It builds a version of you that comfort could never reach. Every tear, every disappointment, every heartbreak carries a hidden message, something to awaken within you. Pain, when faced with patience, becomes a teacher more powerful than any success story because it teaches from experience, not theory. You see, when everything goes right, we celebrate, we smile, we glide through life with ease. But it's the moments that break us that actually build us. Pain reveals what truly matters. It strips away illusions, it humbles the heart, and it demands honesty. You can't hide behind masks when you're hurting. Pain forces you to confront your truth, to sit with your soul and ask, "Fu, am I beneath the noise?" It shows you your limits so you can learn how to expand them. It takes you apart only to rebuild you stronger, wiser, and softer in the right ways. Most people run from pain, numb it, deny it, or pretend it doesn't exist. But pain doesn't vanish when ignored. It transforms into bitterness, resentment, or self-doubt. Healing begins not by escaping pain, but by walking through it consciously. When you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" you shift from being a victim of pain to being a student of it. Pain becomes a classroom, and every difficulty becomes a lesson waiting to be understood. You learn patience when things take longer than you planned. You learn strength when everything you relied on collapses. You learn compassion when you finally understand what others silently endure. Pain refines you, not defines you. It doesn't label you as broken. It polishes you like fire refines gold. Gold doesn't lose its value in the flame. It becomes purer. The same is true for you. Every loss, every rejection, every setback is burning away what no longer serves your highest self. You are being prepared for something greater, even if it doesn't feel that way now. Sometimes the very thing you think is destroying you is actually delivering you to your purpose. The process hurts, but the result transforms. Pain teaches empathy. When you've been through darkness, you begin to recognize the same shadows in others. You start to listen differently, to care more deeply, to love more gently. You become kinder not because life has been kind to you, but because you know what it feels like when it isn't. You understand that everyone carries invisible battles, and that realization softens your heart. Pain reminds you that you are human, that you feel, you fall, you rise, and you keep going. It connects you to humanity in its rawest form. Pain teaches resilience. It builds endurance in the soul. Every time you think you can't go on, and somehow you do, a new layer of strength is born within you. Pain trains your heart to survive storms without losing its tenderness. It teaches you that you can bend without breaking. It shows you that healing isn't about forgetting the wound. It's about learning to live with the scar and letting it remind you of how far you've come. There is beauty in pain when you stop seeing it as punishment. It's not life being cruel, it's life being intentional. Every struggle carries wisdom, every heartbreak carries clarity, and every fall carries a seed of awakening. You are not your pain. You are the strength that walks out of it. Pain doesn't define you, it refines you, reshaping your spirit into something deeper, wiser, and more alive than before. Letting go is one of the hardest lessons the human heart can learn. We are taught to hold on to dreams, to people, to memories, to what once made us feel safe. We grip so tightly because we fear that letting go means losing a part of ourselves. Yet, the truth is the opposite. Letting go is not the act of giving up, it's the act of giving yourself permission to move forward. It takes more strength to release than to cling. It takes courage to loosen your grasp on what's already slipping away. Strength isn't in holding on to what's gone, it's in trusting that life will fill the empty space with something better, something meant for your growth. We hold on because we remember the comfort of what once was. We replay moments that made us feel alive, hoping they can somehow return if we try hard enough. But holding on to what no longer fits your life only prolongs the pain. It keeps your hands full of what has already served its purpose. You can't heal while clutching the same thing that caused the wound. Letting go doesn't erase the past. It allows you to live beyond it. It doesn't mean forgetting. It means understanding that your heart deserves peace more than it deserves memories that hurt. To let go is to trust the process of life. It's believing that endings are not failures, but redirections. Sometimes things fall apart because you've outgrown them. Sometimes people leave because their chapter in your story has ended. Sometimes dreams fade because new ones are waiting to be born. The human instinct is to resist this truth, to fight against change, to chase closure that may never come. But healing doesn't always begin with answers. It begins with acceptance. When you stop fighting for what's no longer yours, you begin to see what's meant for you. Letting go requires faith in what cannot yet be seen. It asks you to step into the unknown, to trust that the space left behind will not remain empty forever. That space becomes sacred. It's where peace settles, where self-love blooms, where new energy begins to flow. You begin to breathe differently when you release the weight that was never meant to be yours. Your shoulders relax, your chest opens, and your spirit lifts. The world starts to look different because you're no longer seeing it through the lens of attachment. It takes immense strength to stop chasing what doesn't want to stay, to walk away without anger, to wish well to what you're releasing, and to forgive yourself for holding on too long. Strength is quiet here. It doesn't shout or demand recognition. It's in the stillness of acceptance, in the silent realization that peace is more valuable than control. Letting go is not about forgetting someone or something. It's about remembering yourself again. It's about returning your power to where it belongs, within you. Pain often convinces us that letting go means losing love, but love doesn't die when you release. It transforms. It becomes gratitude. It becomes wisdom. It becomes the force that carries you forward. When you let go of resentment, love grows. When you let go of control, peace enters. When you let go of fear, freedom follows. You begin to understand that not everything or everyone is meant to stay, and that's not a failure of love. It's the nature of life. Everything has its season, and every season has its purpose. Letting go doesn't happen in a single moment. It's a process, a gentle unlearning. Some days you'll feel strong, and other days you'll ache with the urge to hold on again. But each time you choose release, even in small ways, you reclaim a part of yourself. You teach your heart that peace matters more than familiarity, that healing matters more than history. The moment you stop trying to rewrite what's already written, you begin to create space for what's yet to come. Letting go doesn't make you weak. It proves you are strong enough to trust life, even when it asks you to walk away from what you once thought you couldn't live without. Your worth has never been something that anyone else could give you. It doesn't come from how many people approve of you, praise you, or choose you. It isn't defined by how many followers you have, how attractive you are, or how successful others believe you to be. Your worth is not a vote, not a number, not a reflection of someone else's perception. It exists independent of opinions. It is constant, unchanging, and whole. The tragedy is that so many spend their lives chasing validation, believing that someone else's acceptance will finally make them feel enough, when in truth they were always enough from the very beginning. From childhood, you are taught to seek approval, to please parents, teachers, friends, to be liked, to be chosen. You learn to perform for acceptance, to shape yourself into what others find comfortable. You begin to measure your value through external mirrors, forgetting that mirrors only show surfaces, never souls. Somewhere along the way, the noise of expectation drowns out your inner voice. You start believing that your worth depends on doing, achieving, impressing, rather than simply being. But the moment you start defining yourself by what others think, you hand them the power to decide how you feel about yourself. True confidence is quiet. It doesn't need applause. It comes from knowing who you are when no one is watching. It's built in the moments when you choose integrity over popularity, truth over appearance, peace over performance. When you no longer seek validation, you begin to live authentically. You start saying what you mean, doing what aligns with your soul, and walking your path without waiting for permission. The more you depend on validation, the more you lose yourself. But the more you trust your own voice, the less you fear being misunderstood. There will always be people who don't see your light, who overlook your efforts, who misunderstand your heart. That doesn't mean you failed. Their inability to recognize your value doesn't diminish it. The sun doesn't lose its warmth because someone prefers the shade. Your worth remains, whether it's seen or ignored. The most freeing realization in life is that you don't need to prove yourself to anyone. You don't need to be perfect to be deserving. You don't need to earn love to be worthy of it. You already are. Validation from others is temporary. It fades the moment they turn away. But self-worth, once built, becomes unshakable. It's what allows you to stand tall after rejection, to keep going after failure, to smile even when the world doubts you. When you begin to see your own value, everything changes. You stop chasing people who don't care. You stop apologizing for being yourself. You stop shrinking to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. You start walking with a quiet power grounded in the truth that you are enough as you are. Every time you look outward for approval, you distance yourself from your inner truth. But when you turn inward, you reconnect with your essence. The part of you that knows its own beauty and strength without needing an audience. You remember that your worth was not created by achievements or mistakes, by praise or criticism. It was woven into you long before anyone's opinion existed. You were valuable on the day you were born, and nothing in this world can add to or take away from that. The more you seek external validation, the more fragile your sense of self becomes. But when you build your worth from within, no rejection can shake it. No judgment can diminish it. You stop performing and start living. You stop asking, am I enough? And start knowing, I am. Your worth doesn't depend on who stays or who leaves, on who claps or who criticizes. It exists quietly, powerfully within you, waiting to be recognized, not by the world, but by you. Stillness is often misunderstood as weakness, as doing nothing, as silence that lacks action. But true stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the presence of control. It is the moment when your mind, despite the noise around you, remains steady. It's the space between reaction and response where clarity lives. In a world that glorifies hustle, speed, and noise, stillness becomes rebellion. It is the art of being grounded when everything else is shaking. When chaos surrounds you, calmness becomes your weapon, because nothing disarms confusion and fear like a centered spirit that refuses to be moved by turmoil. Life constantly throws storms our way: conflict, loss, disappointment, uncertainty. Most people respond to chaos with more chaos. They panic, they rush, they try to force control over what's uncontrollable. But when you are still, when you allow yourself to breathe and observe rather than react, you gain a strength that chaos cannot touch. Stillness is awareness. It's the moment you step back and realize that not every battle deserves your energy, not every noise needs your attention, and not every situation requires your reaction. In that awareness, you find power, the power to choose peace over panic, clarity over confusion, presence over pressure. Stillness doesn't mean you stop moving forward. It means you move with intention instead of impulse. You stop letting fear dictate your decisions. You begin to respond with wisdom instead of emotion. In stillness, you can see the truth hidden beneath the surface. You can hear what your intuition is trying to tell you. You can recognize that storms pass and not every wave is meant to drown you. Sometimes stillness is the act of waiting without worry, of trusting that what is meant to unfold will do so at its own perfect time. From childhood, you are taught to seek approval, to please parents, teachers, friends, to be liked, to be chosen. You learn to perform for acceptance, to shape yourself into what others find comfortable. You begin to measure your value through external mirrors, forgetting that mirrors only show surfaces, never souls. Somewhere along the way, the noise of expectation drowns out your inner voice. You start believing that your worth depends on doing, achieving, impressing, rather than simply being. But the moment you start defining yourself by what others think, you hand them the power to decide how you feel about yourself. True confidence is quiet. It doesn't need applause. It comes from knowing who you are when no one is watching. It's built in the moments when you choose integrity over popularity, truth over appearance, peace over performance. When you no longer seek validation, you begin to live authentically. You start saying what you mean, doing what aligns with your soul, and walking your path without waiting for permission. The more you depend on validation, the more you lose yourself. But the more you trust your own voice, the less you fear being misunderstood. There will always be people who don't see your light, who overlook your efforts, who misunderstand your heart. That doesn't mean you failed. Their inability to recognize your value doesn't diminish it. The sun doesn't lose its warmth because someone prefers the shade. Your worth remains whether it's seen or ignored. The most freeing realization in life is that you don't need to prove yourself to anyone. You don't need to be perfect to be deserving. You don't need to earn love to be worthy of it. You already are. Validation from others is temporary. It fades the moment they turn away. But self-worth, once built, becomes unshakable. It's what allows you to stand tall after rejection, to keep going after failure, to smile even when the world doubts you. When you begin to see your own value, everything changes. You stop chasing people who don't care. You stop apologizing for being yourself. You stop shrinking to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. You start walking with a quiet power, grounded in the truth that you are enough as you are. Every time you look outward for approval, you distance yourself from your inner truth. But when you turn inward, you reconnect with your essence. The part of you that knows its own beauty and strength without needing an audience. You remember that your worth was not created by achievements or mistakes, by praise or criticism. It was woven into you long before anyone's opinion existed. You were valuable on the day you were born, and nothing in this world can add to or take away from that. The more you seek external validation, the more fragile your sense of self becomes. But when you build your worth from within, no rejection can shake it, no judgment can diminish it. You stop performing and start living. You stop asking, am I enough? And start knowing, I am. Your worth doesn't depend on who stays or who leaves, on who claps or who criticizes. It exists quietly, powerfully within you, waiting to be recognized, not by the world, but by you. Stillness is often misunderstood as weakness, as doing nothing, as silence that lacks action. But true stillness is not the absence of movement, it is the presence of control. It is the moment when your mind, despite the noise around you, remains steady. It's the space between reaction and response where clarity lives. In a world that glorifies hustle, speed, and noise, stillness becomes rebellion. It is the art of being grounded when everything else is shaking. When chaos surrounds you, calmness becomes your weapon, because nothing disarms confusion and fear like a centered spirit that refuses to be moved by turmoil. Life constantly throws storms our way: conflict, loss, disappointment, uncertainty. Most people respond to chaos with more chaos. They panic, they rush, they try to force control over what's uncontrollable. But when you are still, when you allow yourself to breathe and observe rather than react, you gain a strength that chaos cannot touch. Stillness is awareness. It's the moment you step back and realize that not every battle deserves your energy, not every noise needs your attention, and not every situation requires your reaction. In that awareness, you find power, the power to choose peace over panic, clarity over confusion, presence over pressure. Stillness doesn't mean you stop moving forward. It means you move with intention instead of impulse. You stop letting fear dictate your decisions. You begin to respond with wisdom instead of emotion. In stillness, you can see the truth hidden beneath the surface. You can hear what your intuition is trying to tell you. You can recognize that storms pass and not every wave is meant to drown you. Sometimes, stillness is the act of waiting without worry, of trusting that what is meant to unfold will do so at its own perfect time. The modern world celebrates business as if it's a badge of honor. People wear exhaustion like an achievement, mistaking movement for progress. But chaos without direction only leads to burnout. Stillness allows you to reset. It clears the noise so you can hear your own inner voice again. It connects you to a deeper energy, one that isn't frantic or restless, but rooted and calm. It's in those quiet moments that creativity awakens, solutions appear, and peace returns. You begin to understand that calmness isn't passive. It's the highest form of strength because it requires discipline, awareness, and faith. When chaos tries to pull you into its current, stillness anchors you. It reminds you that you are not your surroundings. You are not the noise, the drama, or the fear. You are the observer. the one who decides how to move through it. Calmness doesn't come from controlling everything outside of you, it comes from mastering what's inside of you. The ability to remain centered while everything else shifts is what separates strength from fragility. Anyone can appear composed when life is easy, but true strength is staying grounded when nothing makes sense. In stillness, you meet yourself. You confront your own thoughts, your fears, your desires. You learn to listen without judgment. You realize that peace isn't found by escaping the world, but by returning to yourself. It's in the quiet that you find guidance, because your soul speaks softly and only stillness allows you to hear it. The calm person in chaos becomes the light others gravitate toward, the voice of reason, the presence that restores balance. Stillness transforms how you see challenges. Instead of reacting out of fear, you start responding with clarity. Instead of rushing to fix everything, you start trusting the flow of life. You no longer waste energy fighting the waves, you learn to ride them. The more still you are within, the less control chaos has over you. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and become the master of your state of being. The power of stillness lies in its quiet defiance. It doesn't shout, it doesn't compete, it simply remains. And in that unwavering calm, you discover a strength deeper than force, a peace stronger than fear, a silence louder than any storm. Faith is not the absence of fear. It is the courage to move forward despite it. It is the quiet voice that says, keep going when everything around you tells you to stop. Faith is the anchor that holds you steady in the waters of uncertainty when nothing is clear and every direction seems lost. Life doesn't always unfold in straight lines. Plans break, paths change, and the things you once depended on can disappear without warning. In those moments, logic fails and control slips away. That is when faith steps in, not as an escape from reality, but as the strength to face it. It reminds you that even when you cannot see what's ahead, something greater is guiding you. Uncertainty is one of life's greatest tests. It strips away illusions of control, forcing you to confront how much you truly trust. It's easy to have faith when everything is working, when your plans align, when doors open easily. But real faith is forged in darkness, when you can't see the path, when every sign points to giving up, and yet something within you refuses to surrender. Faith is the unseen bridge between where you are and where you are meant to be. It's the hand you hold when the ground beneath you feels unstable. Fear destroys slowly. It eats away at peace, at courage, at clarity. It convinces you to doubt your worth, your strength, your future. It whispers that you are alone, that you will fail, that there is no way out. But hope and trust rebuild what fear destroys. Hope is the light that enters even the smallest cracks of darkness. It doesn't remove the pain, but it gives you a reason to endure it. Trust, on the other hand, is what allows you to rest even when the storm rages on. Together, they form the essence of faith, the unwavering belief that no matter what falls apart, something within you and beyond you remains unshakable. Faith doesn't promise that everything will be easy. It doesn't guarantee instant answers or visible progress. Instead, it teaches patience. It asks you to surrender the need to control every detail and to believe that every delay, every disappointment is part of a design you cannot yet see. When you plant a seed, you don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You water it, trust the process, and wait. Faith works the same way. It's the patience to believe that growth is happening even beneath the soil of silence. When uncertainty comes, it reveals who you truly are beneath comfort. It tests the foundation of your beliefs. It strips away distractions and forces you to return to your core. That is where faith lives, not in words, not in rituals, but in the quiet conviction that even when everything seems lost, you are still being led. Faith whispers when fear screams. It says, there is purpose in this pain. There is meaning in this waiting. There is light on the other side of this darkness. Hope rebuilds what fear breaks. It turns wounds into wisdom and endings into beginnings. It transforms despair into determination. Hope is not wishful thinking. It is spiritual endurance. It is the inner knowing that storms do not last forever and that every night carries the promise of a dawn. When you hold on to faith, you begin to see beauty in the waiting, lessons in the struggle, and strength in your endurance. Faith anchors you not because it eliminates uncertainty, but because it gives you something solid to hold on to when everything else shifts. It reminds you that you are not defined by the chaos around you, but by the calm within you. It teaches you to see beyond the surface, to recognize that behind every unanswered question is a lesson, behind every closed door is protection, behind every delay is divine timing. The anchor doesn't stop the waves from coming, it keeps the ship from drifting away. In the same way, faith doesn't remove challenges, but it keeps your spirit from being carried away by fear. There will be moments when you feel lost, when the path ahead is blurred by doubt and pain. In those moments, choose faith again. Choose to trust that life is unfolding as it should, even when it doesn't match your plans. Choose to believe that every step, even the uncertain ones, are leading you somewhere meaningful. Faith doesn't make life perfect, it makes it possible. It transforms weakness into resilience, confusion into clarity, fear into courage. It reminds you that though uncertainty may surround you, it does not have to live within you. When everything else fades, faith remains, the steady anchor in a sea of uncertainty, holding you firm until the storm passes and the light returns once more. Transformation is not born from control, but from surrender. It is not achieved through the relentless effort to force life into your design, but through the quiet acceptance of what already is. Most people believe that change comes from pushing harder, trying more, and never letting go. Yet true transformation begins the moment you release your grip and allow life to move through you instead of against you. Surrender is not defeat. It is not giving up on your dreams or your strength. It is giving up the illusion that you must control everything to find peace. It is the realization that growth often happens in the moments when you stop fighting what is and begin to trust what can be. Life has its rhythm, its seasons, its flow. There are times when everything feels effortless and times when no matter how much you try, nothing works. The human instinct is to resist the difficult seasons, to demand answers, to question timing, to wrestle with pain. Yet every struggle you resist only tightens its hold on you. The more you fight reality, the more trapped you feel within it. But the moment you surrender, truly surrender, you shift from being a prisoner of your circumstances to a participant in your own evolution. Surrender allows acceptance, and acceptance opens the door to transformation. Surrender does not mean you stop caring about outcomes. It means you release your attachment to them. You continue to give your best, but you no longer destroy your peace when things don't unfold as you planned. You learn to meet life where it is, not where you wish it would be. That shift alone changes everything, because peace is found not in perfect conditions, but in perfect acceptance. When you surrender to life's flow, you start to see meaning in the moments that once felt meaningless. You begin to understand that the detours were never delays. They were directions guiding you somewhere deeper. Transformation requires trust. Trust in the timing of your journey, trust in your strength, and trust that what leaves your life does so to make space for what's meant to enter. The ego wants control. It wants to predict, to plan, to possess. But the soul seeks surrender. It wants alignment, flow, and truth. When you stop living from ego and start listening to soul, You begin to see that resistance was never strength, it was fear disguised as control. The need to control everything is the need to avoid pain. Yet growth cannot happen without discomfort. When you surrender, you stop running from pain and allow it to shape you into someone wiser, softer, and stronger. The greatest transformations happen quietly in the spaces between letting go and receiving. You can't fill a cup that's already full, and you can't receive new blessings while clinging to what's no longer meant for you. Surrender empties your hands, making room for new beginnings. It is the spiritual act of trust that says, I may not understand this now, but I know it's leading me somewhere I need to be. You stop trying to swim upstream and instead flow with the current of life. That doesn't mean you drift aimlessly. It means you move with grace, allowing life to guide you toward what aligns with your deepest truth. Transformation through surrender also means letting go of your old self. The stories you tell yourself about who you are, what you deserve, and what's possible become walls that confine your growth. To transform, you must release those stories. You must surrender the version of you that was built on fear, on expectations, on the need to prove your worth. You can't step into a new chapter while dragging the weight of your old identity behind you. The person you are becoming cannot emerge until you release who you were pretending to be. Surrender is that release. It's the spiritual exhale that allows your true self to finally breathe. It takes courage to surrender because it requires faith in the unseen. The mind wants certainty, it wants a plan. But the heart, when it's still, knows that certainty is an illusion. Everything changes and everything passes. Surrender is not passive, it is active trust. It is standing in the middle of uncertainty and saying, I don't need to have all the answers right now. It's choosing patience when everything inside you wants control. It's knowing that sometimes the pause, the silence, the in-between is the most sacred part of the journey. Transformation is not a single event, it's a continual unfolding. And each time you surrender, you peel back another layer of resistance that hides your true nature. You learn that control was never safety, it was confinement. You begin to see that surrender is not weakness, but alignment with something greater than your own limited understanding. You stop needing life to look a certain way to feel whole, because wholeness no longer depends on circumstances. It comes from within. Surrender teaches you that peace is not found in everything going right, but in trusting that everything happening is right for your growth. When you surrender, you begin to see beauty in imperfection. You realize that broken things can still shine, that endings can still be beginnings, and that not knowing can still be sacred. You stop resisting change because you understand that everything that falls away is clearing space for something truer. You stop forcing relationships that have expired, stop clinging to plans that no longer fit your spirit, and stop trying to control people or situations that were never yours to manage. Surrender doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start caring for yourself enough to let go of what keeps you in pain. In surrender, you find freedom. Freedom from overthinking, from forcing, from the exhausting need to be in control of every outcome. You learn to breathe through uncertainty instead of battling it. You stop trying to fix everything and start allowing life to teach you through experience. You become gentler with yourself because you realize that transformation doesn't require perfection. It requires openness. Every scar becomes proof that you survived what was meant to break you, and every tear becomes a seed of strength. You start to trust life not because it's predictable, but because it's purposeful. Transformation begins the moment you stop resisting what is and start embracing what could be. When you release the illusion that you can control everything, you step into harmony with the flow of life itself. You begin to see that surrender is not the end of effort. It's the beginning of wisdom. It's the moment when you stop trying to shape the river and instead learn to move with its current. In that movement, in that trust, in that release, you find the truth you've been searching for all along. That real change is not something you force upon life. It's something life creates within you the moment you surrender to its flow.